Hey, Star from Sweden. This is Adrianne from the Black Women in Europe podcast, your mindfulness activist.
Hey, it's your girl Kate Pearl, your truth teller and healer for justice over here in the UK. And this is our season of healing.
Of healing racial trauma. We were supposed to do that together, people, but that's as close as we could get. Yeah. So stick around.
Blooper reel.
Racial trauma. Ever heard of it? Let's get one thing straight. It is not just feeling bad or overreacting. Racial trauma is real. It's patterned, it's passed down, and yes, it's political. This isn't just some buzzword or theory. It's in your body, it's in your mind, it's in your ancestors' bloodline, and it shows up in everyday life, from those side-eye microaggressions to overt violence to erasure in the media. In fact, 2024 research from child and adolescent mental health shows that racial trauma is significantly linked to mental health struggles, such as anxiety, depression, and PTSD, especially in Black youth. This isn't just academic talk, it's in our lived experiences. I'm talking about how racial trauma doesn't just fade away, it stays, and it doesn't just affect you. It affects your kids, your community, and everyone around you. It's your girl Kate Pearl, and I'm here to break this down for you. Because the truth is, if you're Black in the UK, if you're Black anywhere, but yes, if you're Black in the UK, this is your reality. And whether you're aware of it or not, it is passed down through generations and it embeds in our bodies. Chronic stress, hypervigilance, cortisol overload, these are all the results of racial trauma. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. But we're not just here to talk about it. We're here to heal. And for those ready to dive even deeper into the conversation, I'm co-hosting a special season of the Black Women in Europe podcast, Season of Healing Racial Trauma, and it drops on May the 1st. This season is all about understanding racial trauma, unpacking it, and talking about how it embeds itself in your body and some of the practices we can actually take home and use to heal. It's available everywhere you get your podcast, so be sure to hit subscribe and check that out. If you're feeling this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Remember to follow us over here at Kate Pearl's Pearls for more straight talk on racial trauma, healing and building resilience. We're just getting started. Let's heal.
Okay, I can't help but think of the Marvin Gaye song, Sexual Healing, where you're talking about ancestral healing. Dive more into it.
I love where your mind went there. I'm just trying to right, we'll calibrate. Yes, ancestral healing. But also different mediums of it and how we've kind of I don't know if it's a mainstream term yet, but it's something I like to call cultural coping. And really looking at the way we as Black people, and I would say especially Black women, we've used culture not just to survive, but to build something new from, pieces they tried to break us with, essentially. Because let's be honest, when everything else was taken from us, we had our food, our languages, our style, our music, our faith, and throughout time, we had hands that still knew how to care, bodies that still knew how to move, and we've had each other. And that, I think, that's not just vibes, but the way I see it, that's strategy. It's absolutely resistance, and simultaneously, it's healing. Yeah. So these aren't just aesthetics or vibes for the gram. These are actually, I see them as survival technologies in a way. They're ancestral blueprints that are passed down through silences and the shutdowns and the systems that wanted us erased, and yet we're still here. So I think in a way this episode might not be quite as full on heavy as far as the heat, the trauma healing stuff, but it's all very much connected. And I really want to take this one as a moment to celebrate the different things that we do. Because we're still here, right? We're still singing. We're still seasoning our food just right. We're still finding joy where joy quite possibly shouldn't or might never have grown otherwise. So this episode is really about honouring all of that and giving name and space to the ways that we've coped through culture, through memory, through each other, and through spirit. Yeah. And I imagine there's loads of global
We're
different
here for
variations on
that.
this. Yeah, I mean, come on,
Yeah,
let's break it up a little
definitely.
bit. That's what I was thinking with this episode. And I'm sure there's plenty of examples, Adrianne, that you'd share. But I mean, example, yeah, and I'm not just talking about survival in theory. I'm talking about survival all over the world, right? But examples in the UK, in London, in Birmingham, in Nottingham, Bristol, Manchester, the Caribbean hair shops, the Sunday services, the house parties that lasted till 3 a.m., carnival processions that we built from absolutely fuck all, right? The kitchens where rice and peas were gospel, the block parties with sound systems that made the pavement shake, and the old school shebeens and youth clubs, the aunties who kept it all moving. Our healing didn't just it didn't just happen by itself. We've really built things to keep that going. And I don't know. I've just listed loads from the UK. Adrianne, maybe you have some examples that have sparked in your mind.
Well, definitely. And some of them, like Mardi Gras, that we have, and that's carnival roots. I was just at the National Museum of African American History and Culture last winter, and there was an exhibit. It was in conjunction with scholars in the UK, Belgium, I want to say South Africa, the United States, and some other country, and it was about the transatlantic slave trade and colonization, and about how we as a people did just what you were saying, kept our cultures, did joyous things. And I know in some parts of the Americas, Latin and South America, some of the festivals are homage to that. And some of the costumes that we wear, they have cowrie shells woven into, which is something from our culture on the continent.
Yeah,
Or some of the dances are directly related to dances that we would have done on the continent or learned, as children. So it's amazing how it's portable, ingrained, but it also shows how necessary it is,
oh
right?
yes, absolutely.
Necessary. Because wherever we're dispersed, we're doing the same sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. And when we say it's absolutely necessary, when we say cultural coping, we're not just talking about getting through tough times, although we are talking about that. But we're talking about something a bit deeper, because I feel it's really a declaration that despite everything, we've never been mere victims of circumstance, right? I mean, we have been, but we haven't. I'd say far from it, because we've always been creative, adaptive, deeply resourceful, and people who have built and rebuilt ourselves time and time again, our families, our communities, on the foundation of culture. When systems tried to break us and events, cultures held us together. And in psychology, they use the term coping mechanisms, and it usually means the way that an individual might manage stress, trauma, or adversity, and that can be anything from distraction to avoidance to seeking support. But for us, coping isn't just an individual survival strategy that comes into it, but it is actually cultural. It's the way we collectively endure and resist, and it's the beating heart of our survival.
It is. And you know what, Kate? I know you always like to give resources, and I'm proud to say this one is available online. It's called, and this is the exhibit I was talking about at the National, if anyone Googles NMAAHC, National Museum of African American History and Culture. This is called In Slavery's Wake, Making Black Freedom in the World.
Mm.
So this was a collaborative. I wanted to see if I had all of the stories right, but they talk about colonial slavery, modern inequality, navigating the wake of slavery, and building Black futures. It was a global curatorial product. Okay, Senegal was one of the countries that I left out because
Right.
I have been in Senegal, the door of no return, in Ile de
Mm.
Gori, where a lot of us left. Okay, thank you. Here it is. It's a collaboration with scholars from museums in Belgium, Brazil, England, Senegal, and South Africa, and the United States. Cultural partners from each location contributed stories, objects, oral histories that reflect their local communities with this global history. So you can see, so on the continent, in the Americas, North America, South America, and in the UK, so
Yeah.
England, in Europe. So it's very powerful, and I'm glad to see that a lot of resources are online, but it speaks to just exactly what you're talking to. So I can put this in the show notes for how those cultures, for example, in Brazil, in England,
Mm.
in the UK, um, mirrored cultures that we had in Senegal, Belgium as well,
Yeah.
Senegal and South Africa, as far as food, dancing, music,
Mm.
clothes, ceremonies.
Yeah. Because it's an
Because
ancestral blueprint in so many ways, isn't it?
it's an ancestral blueprint for how we celebrate births, weddings, milestones,
Yeah.
how that's adapted to the food that we can have, that we had access to. Um, but all of that, to me, it was fascinating to see the common threads
Mm.
through whether it was colonization, slavery. It was just fascinating the tactics used by the colonizers and the slavers, as well as the survival tactics used by us, no
Mm.
matter where we were. So I'm so glad you brought that up because it is a celebration of joy once you get through it and see. And it has a lot of handmade handicraft. We do things with our hands.
Yeah, oh yes. We're so creative and resourceful. It's just
And you
amazing
mentioned
what we
it
do.
also for healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also for healing. You mentioned that how our hands are used for healing. So yeah, I'm glad this is a joyful episode, and I'm glad I can share a resource for once.
Yay. And I'm glad you did because I've actually given mine a rare break just to come as natural as I can with this one. I do that every episode, but I think I'm giving us time off receipts and more time to celebrate. And it can be things like as well. Think about it for me. For me, it could be cooking. Many people might resonate this one, cooking the same stew even your grandmother made after church on a Sunday, if that was your setup, or the aroma that carries with it memories and comfort. Even that's a form of cultural coping. Singing the same songs, that maybe someone was singing while cleaning the house, like the melodies wrapping around you like a familiar blanket, is cultural coping. Storytelling around Sunday dinners, passing down histories and lessons between bites, that's cultural coping. Dance, rhythm, poetry, each one is a channel that carries us through pain and celebration alike. And I'd say for Black women, this is especially true because there's this stereotype that we're strong, that we're unbreakable pillars who carry entire communities on our backs. But beneath that strength is a vast, deep well of emotions. So, we carry the sorrow, rage, joy, and resilience and legacy, all held, carried, and expressed through culture. And culture is not just a backdrop or accessory, it is the vessel through which Black women carry the fullness of their humanity. And another example, one of the, I think, most striking examples to me of cultural coping is the Notting Hill Carnival in London. This incredible event, created by Claudia Jones in the early 1960s, it actually came into being as a direct response to the violent racial attacks and that were increasingly rocking the city. But I think it was the 1958 kickoffs that really the carnival spun off from. But it wasn't just a street party or a chance to showcase Caribbean culture, although that was involved. It was much more than that. It was actually a ritual, a form of protest, and a collective act of joy in defiance of hate. And it was a way for the community to say, look, we're here, we're alive, we're not going to be erased, and while we're at it, we're going to have a fucking good time,
I'm proud to say I've been to one and it's amazing.
It
It
is
is
so
world
good.
famous. It's like you
Yes.
gotta go, you gotta go. It's amazing. It's amazing. Is it still going on? How many years in a row?
Oh wow! So 58, well, 50. I think 59 was the official first one, 1959. So we're in 25. That is a long. That's a lot.
I wonder did they have to pause it for COVID?
I think. Well, it didn't stop after COVID. It's definitely still going.
Yeah, it came back. If it did take a pause, I'm thinking that would have been the only thing that could have stopped it. That and
Yeah.
if it's some weather anomaly, but I'm thinking people be out there in bad weather
Oh,
anyway.
they're out there regardless. They're out there regardless. And well, so all right, I semi hit the bookshelf, but I think this captures what we're trying to say here beautifully. It's a quote from scholar Dr. Canetta Hammond Perry, and she said of Black culture, she said Black cultural expression. She's saying Britain, but I think this is universal. Black cultural expression in Britain has often been a response to violence and insistence on life in the face of systemic erasure. Yeah. And I think that idea itself, it's fundamental because, you know, when we talk about cultural coping, we mean the ways in which culture acts as both shield and sword. So, you know, it protects us from the wounds of systemic racism, marginalization, and trauma, while also carving out spaces where our identities can be affirmed and celebrated. Yeah.
Okay, I know we're supposed to be celebrating. What happened in the 50s to inspire Carnival? There was some unrest.
There was
50s may
some.
seem like a long time ago, but it's not.
It's not. I mean, it's not even 100 years ago. I think anything that happened less than a century ago shouldn't even be considered a long time ago. But you know, we have that narrative running alongside things anyway. I'm not 100% sure. I weren't around in '58. I know little bits about this, but I believe it was between the Teddy Boys, who were gangs of white youths kicking off against the new Caribbean arrivals. And you got to remember in '58, like that's only 10 years into what we call the Windrush era. So there's still quite new arrivals, lots of violent riots, lots of just general awfulness. Obviously, shock to the system for the new arrivals. They came for the better jobs and the better life and to help rebuild a country, but they weren't told or warned about the kind of shit they'd be running into. And things got really quite nasty and violent, you know.
Okay, yeah, I remember the scenario. Okay, and out of that came the fantastic Notting Hill Carnival.
Yeah.
One way we push back is to pull together and go to our roots, ancestral healing and culture. Excellent example. Best place to get food too. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yes. And go and get fed. Yeah.
Get fed. So is that coming up? Is it tied to Mardi Gras, that Fat Tuesday, all of that around Easter? Did that come and go? No, it's in the summer.
It's in the
Notting Hill
summer,
Carnival's in
and
the summer.
it can vary. It can be in July or it can be in August. It depends on what they're doing with the dates. But
Yeah.
usually around that mark.
Well,
And
if you haven't been to one, try to
go.
go.
Absolutely, highly recommended. And culture builds community, right? It creates belonging, and it reconnects us to our ancestors and to each other. It's important, and it's not a new phenomenon across the African diaspora. Cultural coping has long been a tool for survival. You know, from the spirituals sung by enslaved people in the American South, which coded messages is what a lot of that were, coded messages of hope and escape, to the oral histories that have been preserved by Indigenous peoples. Culture is the thread that binds us to our past, but also propels us forward simultaneously. Yeah.
Absolutely. Culture is, I don't know, people without culture, I don't know. I don't know if there's, yeah, can't even imagine that. And people who want to co opt or suppress or erase somebody else's culture, there's something sinister
Mm.
about that. And that's what's
Mm.
part of colonization. And they say integration, but they want assimilation. That
Basically that.
involves stripping you of that. And as a people in general, we just don't. We may do it at the school, but when we're home, or we may do it at work, but when we're home, that's part of the code switching and all the other stuff we have to go through to survive in the
Right.
mainstream world that doesn't want us to see joy in our culture. But I have a friend, I know someone, yeah, I was an extra on a TV show one time, and this guy, we had to drive to about 45 minutes to another town, and he had to wait for me. Whatever I was doing was taking longer. I was like, I'm so sorry, this must be boring. He said, that's okay. He said, we're in there playing cards. He said, even the slaves had fun.
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, it was so funny the way he said it. And I thought, wow, he's got a really good attitude. Even the
Mm.
slaves had fun. Like he's like, it's not gonna bother me. I'm waiting for you a few hours. I'm sitting around playing cards. You know,
Yeah.
attitude is everything, and we as a
Oh
people have
yes.
got some of the best attitudes. We like to say we're the
Absolutely.
most forgiving,
Yeah.
but just our attitudes.
Absolutely. And mentality. It speaks a lot to our mentality as well.
To be able to lean into the cultural, the ancestral healing naturally, to be able to lead into the comfort of the music and the food intuitively, instinctively.
Yes, exactly.
It's a gift.
It is.
And we all have it. We have to tune into it more, just like we were talking about our breath. It's a gift. We have it. So thanks for this. Remember the joy. Remember the ancestral healing that's already in us.
Yes, exactly. And these are deep and powerful ways that we protect ourselves, we support each other, but crucially, remember who we are through culture. And just going back to what Adrianne said, absolutely, it's meant to, a lot of the things that we face with are actually meant to make us, quote unquote, assimilate and forget all of that. But we've held strong, and yeah, we're honoring and remembering that today, because it isn't just about survival, it's about flourishing, and it's about building joy and resilience that can't be broken, and that is just it's just so powerful. So
I love that resilience, and it is powerful. And it's resilience because it's not a one-time fix. You're not going to be like, okay, I'm strong, I've got this, and boom,
mm,
that's it. No, you're going to be tested daily, if not
yeah,
weekly, if not monthly. So it's a practice, and you want resilience is a continual thing. And joy is a
absolutely.
part of that.
Yeah, and enjoy the voyage of discovery it takes to get to every level of resilient you're ever going to need to be. On ancestral memory, they didn't take everything. When our ancestors were, torn from the continent of Africa, what followed was almost unimaginable. We're getting a little heavy now. The horrors of enslavement. We're going to go back to colonization, displacement, and brutal dehumanization. Actually, did physically try to strip them of everything. Identity, language, family, freedom. Yet, despite these violent attempts to erase us, there was something they couldn't take, and it was something sacred, powerful, and unbreakable, and that was memory. Yeah, ancestral memory. It's often thought of as just family stories told around the dinner table. We have alluded to that, but it's actually so much more than that. It is wisdom that's encoded deep in our bodies. So it's the knowledge carried through our DNA. It's the instincts, intuition. Adrianne's already said it, and habits passed down in ways that words alone can't fully capture. So it might be the urge to braid our hair in certain patterns, the way we hum melodies when we're hurting, the way we gather in community to grieve or celebrate. These things, they didn't just come from nowhere. They came from centuries of surviving, adapting, and resisting. And these are still rich in us today, like every last one of us walking. I thought you had something there, Adrianne, but the mic's not going. It's fine. You need your mic. I'll just carry on. Even in the cold, grey, and often hostile places where they settled, like far from the warmth of their homelands, the memories they carried gave them a different kind of warmth. And this warmth, it was spiritual, emotional, and communal, and it was a fire that kept them going, that bound them to their identities and to each other.
Okay, I'm finally got off mute. What is so funny? I took a screenshot of us. I'm thinking maybe I was trying to unmute the screenshot. And then I'm like, okay,
Ah,
that's not the come back to Zoom. But I always kind of wonder, how did I know how to braid hair?
mm,
Now, I don't remember, and I was always better at it than my mother, so I don't think she taught me. But I think that's one of those instinctive, okay, your mother teaches you how to eat with a knife and fork, tie your shoes, or your parents or an elder teaches you those things. You don't just learn how to do that. But braiding hair, I feel like a lot of that was intuitive, and definitely cornrowing. Like I just knew how to cornrow.
yeah,
It's like, how do I know how to cornrow? I just knew. So when you say a lot of that is memory
it's
and
encoded. Yeah,
encoded, it's literally encoded, and I don't know the science about that, but I just knew how to do that. And some people, we all know how to do it to a different level. Like my mother didn't enjoy it or always thought I was better, but you can't break that. But just like you say, and this isn't the episode, but some of that, a lot of that trauma that we survived during this transatlantic slave trade, the 400 years of the slave trade, and all of the decades and years, centuries of colonization,
yeah,
that's going to be encoded too. But then it also means that all of those centuries when, we were kings and queens of Africa running things. We had the richest man in the world, not
Yeah.
the other African guy that has that title now. The South African guy that's in my home country. He's got that title now. But he used to be a king in Mali that had that title of the richest man in the world. Um,
Yeah.
all of that glory and wisdom, and still, like you say, if we still have all that knowledge and ancestral healing in our DNA, we have that of the glory too, and
Yeah.
of our king and queendoms. We need to tap into that as well. I just,
Absolutely.
if I know how to cornrow instinctively, I know how to reign, right, or rule, or
Mhm.
you know, carry myself as a queen as well, and
Yeah.
demand to be treated as one. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this ancestral memory, it's not just a passive inheritance, it's active. It lives in us. And speaking, you didn't know you knew how to row, but it breathes through us, and it shapes how we live, how we heal, how we move through the day, and also how we fight. And it's why certain rituals and practices are also so necessary. Why certain tastes and sounds call us home, and why community gatherings feel like reclaiming a lost but never entirely forgotten part of ourselves. Um, so I think also, I haven't tried this yet, but it was a suggested exercise, and I'm going to do it. Something to think about is, what's been passed down to you. What memories, wisdom, or traditions do you still hold close? What have you inherited that actually nourishes your spirit or grounds your identity? And I love what you just said about how to carry ourselves like, kings and queens. Because it could be anything. It could be anything from a recipe that might have been taught to you by, I'm going to go say, grandma again. The way she folded her hands in a prayer. The stories told on quiet evenings. It might be a song, a dance, a way of walking through the world. I've often been told that I don't walk, I strut. I believe there's music in my hips, and whatever it is part of a chain that stretches back centuries, and it's a chain of resilience, survival, and unyielding love. But crucially, the joy found in every situation, regardless. Yeah.
Even the slaves have fun.
Even the slaves had fun. Absolutely. And even as the systems of colonialism and racism have literally and physically tried to sever us from our roots in every way possible, ancestral memory remains a thread that connects us to a past that can never be erased. And it reminds us that while much was taken, not everything was lost. Not everything was lost. And our ancestors carried their histories in their hearts. And that history flows through us still.
Kate, I don't know if it's a trend in the UK, but it's the fan dance a thing now. Have you seen those videos of the fan dance? If they're going around the Black community in the States, it is kind of came out of post-election, like, don't ask Black women to do anything. We're taking a break, right? Because we worked so hard to get President Harris elected, but it didn't come to be.
Mm.
She was the solution to save America. We're like, we know stuff is going to go to hell, but don't ask us. We're taking a break. That type of philosophy we're having right now, because we
Yeah.
always save everything and fix everything.
Yeah.
Um, so there's this thing called the fan dance. Okay, I'm going to share a video. I'm going to see if I can clip in a video of one to our episode if I'm that good. I don't know if I'm that good at editing people, but it's this kind of trend, like while the world's on fire, we're dancing. And it's not like Nero, like while the world was on fire, he was playing the violin. It's kind of like, y'all will figure it out. We're waiting for you all to figure it out.
Mm.
Kind of like what you've been talking about. We're tired of educating people. We're tired. Why are we always the one that has to fix something? So now we're kind of looking at back people and dancing. Y'all didn't want to do the Black Lives Matter thing for the long haul.
Mm.
At least in the States, you're cutting down on DEI. How's that working out? We're dancing. So there's this cute like line dance with fans. And of course there's some song.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're like, show your fan. You know how we are. I'll show the video with you. But I'm thinking that's part of our joy.
it
How we
is.
come back to finding ways to be joy when things are falling apart, when things look like they're falling apart. We'll
Absolutely.
come together and dance for a little bit, have community, some type of prayer, meditation, and then go back and fight. out in the world.
Yeah, prime example. And yeah, so I think another key piece of this is we, I think, almost intuitively as well, of known, whether we know how or not, how to stay grounded. And this is crucial. So addressing rituals that have kept us grounded over time. I mean, ritual, it's a word that gets used a lot, but I mean, what does it actually mean? And at its core, my definition, a ritual is simply the things that we choose to do with intention. It's acts repeated, not just out of habit, although that's part of it, but because they hold meaning and because they root us. And ritual is sacred repetition. It's the heartbeat that steadies us when the world feels like it's spinning too fast or tipping out of control. Think about those moments when you reach for something familiar and something that feels like home, like even if you're miles away from the place you were born or the family you grew up with, like lighting a candle to honor an ancestor or a lost loved one, or again, we'll go back to things like braiding your child's hair, like or whoever, not just to groom, but to do things that, like, to pass down stories, tradition, and identity through each plait. Cleaning the house while blasting gospel music is one of my favorites. I've heard it several times. Just feeling the joy and the rhythm and the power in the lyrics. Cooking whatever your thing is, but mine's Sunday rice and peas. The smells wrapping around you again like a comforting hug, and it
Let me
reminds you
ask
family
you
roots and
this.
rest.
Let me ask you this. Yes, rice and peas. That's definitely a meal from the diaspora, and everybody
Mm.
cooks it differently. How do you do your rice and peas?
Variables. It depends on how I've got around, but my peas are kidney beans usually, or black beans, and I like both. I'm a lover of garlic. There's a lot of garlic, and they're,
Sounds
they're my big
good.
three. Just shitloads of garlic and everything, especially rice and peas. Lots and lots of herbs, lots and lots of herbs. And the rice isn't. It's not soft, but it's not. It's got that nice little in between to the bite.
And do you mix them together, the beans and the rice together?
I put the peas in right at the end, but they've usually been marinated in shitloads of herbs. um,
Okay. See, thank you for your
yeah,
style.
that's my
Everybody
little
did,
recipe.
yeah. Oh, and it's a good staple. You can have that as a whole meal or as a side dish.
Yeah, both. I've taken it just like out and about because I've had leftovers for days. We do tend to cook shitloads of it, so it's doing 2 or 3 days after the original meal.
See, there's ancestral cooking,
Yeah,
economical, healthy,
yeah,
right? Filling. Um, we can do anything with a little, and herbs
oh
probably
yeah.
that we used to grow. So if you can have an herb garden, right? That we used to grow all our stuff. So all those herbs would have been grown
Mm,
in your herb garden. So yeah, cooking like that, and like when you say braiding and the oiling of the scalp.
yeah,
Oh, that. And it's not just getting your hair done, but it's the time spent in between your mom's legs or however you're getting it
oh
done.
yeah,
And the stories you hear, whether you're the kid and the ladies are in the room and you're talking, when you're the kid hearing everything that's going on, or
yeah.
if your mom or whoever's doing your hair happens to be the hub and people are coming in, like that community,
Yeah.
like in the barber shop or the beauty salon,
Mm,
hubs of the community. You can find out everything.
yeah.
A lot of buying and selling going on, a lot of gossip, a lot of comforting, a lot of celebration
Mm,
of achievements. I love to see kids come in for their first service. If you're
yeah,
there, it's the boy's first haircut or the girl's first, time in the beauty salon.
yeah.
So a lot of that cultural, um, and a lot of lessons, I guess it's relevant in the UK about entrepreneurship. I think that's part of our ancestral
Oh
cultural
yeah,
healing and DNA. Being able to provide goods and services for each other, for our communities.
yeah. Oh yeah. That was
That's part of it.
hardcore in there. And these, you know what, rituals also give us agency. I would
Yeah.
extend on that sentence some more, but of all, I just think it's a big one to let land. Rituals actually give us agency. Yeah. Um, in a world that's often tried to strip us of everything. especially that. And I think rituals can also, they can be public or private. They can be loud or quiet. They can be the exuberance of carnival processions, or they can be that like Saturday meet in the hair shop, dancing in the streets, cooking, costumes blazing with color and sound, and often that's our styles blazing with color and sound. But joy is a revolutionary act, or rituals can be quiet moments of prayer, reflection. I will go back to lighting a candle in a small room. I love doing that. Alone, but also connected to generations past.
That can be very powerful because you
It's
can actually
massively powerful.
feel the ancestors in there with you. You can summon them in.
Yeah, exactly. And I am going to repeat, rituals give us agency in a world that's tried to and continues to try to define us, control us, diminish us. Ritual is something we actually create. We create ourselves. We do it as communities, but we create ourselves, and it's a way to reclaim our space and our bodies, or our space in our bodies and in the world, to actually say, you know what, this is mine. This is who I am. Yeah, that's a big one.
It's a big one. And you know what I'm reminded of when how our athletes celebrate after they score? That's a direct reflection on our culture. I think we do it special, how we, after we score a goal, our athletes, when I say my brothers and sisters, we always have a little special something. And I think that's part of how our culture, we dance to celebrate, as a community. And you get your whole team in there when you celebrate after. It's the joy. And that's a celebration right after hard work. So that's a
Yeah.
lesson that we can take in our lives. Celebrate every win
Yes.
as if you fought for it. Because in one way or another, you
You
did.
did. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And beyond the individual, I love that you shared that, because rituals bind communities together. They are the threads in the tapestry of our collective identity. So anything like from your athletic celebrations, the shared meals on during family gatherings, or where stories flow as freely as the food. Carnival again, hair shop. We keep saying these. Each of these are they're the rituals that fortify community bonds and that nourish the soul of a people. And so this is something to think about. I suppose a little homework. What are rituals that have kept you grounded? Maybe take some time to reflect on that. What are the small or large acts that you return to again and again, because you know full well they hold you? Yeah. What rituals have you inherited, adapted, or created for yourself? And how do they help you hold on to yourself in a world that often tries to take pieces away? So I'll let that one sit for a minute. Just some questions to think about.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of them have dual meaning. Is if you're a foreigner in another country or you moved in or adopted a country, how much of your national rituals do you keep? And that's when you can really realize, wow, rituals
Yeah.
are important, even if they're attached to my nation, even if I could be disappointed with my nation or whatever, they're tied to your identity.
Yeah,
They're really
absolutely.
tied to your identity. So thanks for those. Those are good ones to reflect on.
Yeah. And today, whatever your ritual is, whether you light a candle, you're humming a song, even if you just sit quietly with yourself, that's another ritual. Peace. Just know that you're doing something powerful. You're participating in a sacred tradition of healing and resistance that has kept us alive for centuries. Ritual is our anchor, it's our refuge, and it's our act of love. And that love is everything. So that's how I close it up on rituals. Now another one.
Love is
Music.
everything.
Music.
Yeah.
Our survival soundtrack. And similar to rice and peas, we have different ones, but music's medicine. There's a common thread for Black communities all over the world and throughout time. It's been so much more than just sound. It's been balm for our wounds. It's been a weapon against oppression, a celebration of life, and a sacred ceremony of connection. Yeah, music carries our stories, our pain, our joy, our resistance, all wrapped in rhythm and melody. Yeah. So if you think about it, from the spirituals sung by enslaved people in the Americas again, repeat, songs that were coded with hope and secret messages of escape to the pulsating beats of Afrobeat that move bodies and minds alike today. You know, music's always been a vital part of how we survive and thrive, and it's the soundtrack to our history, our pain, and our healing.
Oh yeah, Bob Marley used it
Oh, yeah.
for civic engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely blues, gospel, jazz. Duke Ellington thought
Oh,
music,
yes.
could bridge the world. That it
Mm.
could, and music has defeated racism in a lot of instances and
Oh, yes.
circumstances. But the arts in general
Yes,
can do that, and we can put the culinary arts in that as well.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, but music, a healer, teacher,
Mm-hmm.
motivator,
Yeah.
place to show your anger, your pain, your joy,
And to feel
um,
held.
how to feel held,
Yeah.
learn things, how many coded messages, like you say, your escape plans
Yeah.
in
Absolutely.
there, and the escape plan, the route woven into your
Yeah. Woven
cornrows,
into your rose. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
the escape route. But music, okay. And when I grew up, there was a radio station, actually, it was attached to Howard University. It's still on WHUR. That every morning, I don't know, I think 7 o'clock, they would play Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. And my alarm clock was set to it. So every morning for a period of my childhood, I woke up
The three
to
little
that
birds.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what a wonderful way to wake up. That's a song of hope and beauty, simple life.
Mm,
Good way to get a kid out of bed too. You're waking up
absolutely.
happy.
Yes. Yeah. And here well, everywhere, I'm sure, but here in the UK, there's some examples of how music's played a particularly powerful role in shaping Black British identity and resistance. You know, the 1980s, for example, really turbulent time in places like Brixton, where police brutality and systemic racism sparked protests, riots, unrest, the works. But Black youth didn't just fight on the streets; they fought with music. Going back to what you say about how music has actually it stopped racism in its tracks so many times. So I do remember, early life for me, but bands like Steel Pulse and Aswad brought roots reggae to the forefront, and their lyrics were just filled with messages of resilience, resistance, but hope. Crucially, reggae actually became a voice for the voiceless and a unifying call in the face of hostility. One example, Lovers Rocks, another one for me. It was like a genre that was blending reggae with soulful, more tender melodies. So that was kind of like a musical embrace that soothed the heartache and joy of Black British life. And I suppose more recently, grime. It's not my favourite, but I do get the point. Grime emerged from the early 2000s as a more raw, I suppose, urgent expression of the realities faced, particularly by young Black Londoners. But you could listen to it anywhere and totally relate. It was gritty, fast, and unapologetic. So it was music as both catharsis and proclamation. So even the different types of music, like they all seem, they all do a job, like something quite specific, and it
Yeah,
helps us
I
kind of.
don't. It helps you cope. I don't know if Lucky Dube was popular in the UK, but he was a South African reggae artist that sang about apartheid. And I remember one of my favorite song of his, "Prisons." They don't build any schools anymore; they just build prisons. But again, taking the lead from Bob Marley of using music for social. And gosh, Still Pulse. Yeah, I remember them. They're still
Yeah,
touring, I believe.
they are still touring. There was another one, musical youth. I love them. Well, they disbanded when I was born, actually, but they came back in the early 2000s, and I'm coming of age at that point. So, they were relevant both times for me. Still touring. They'll be getting on a bit now. And
Yeah, I know. These people are getting on, but music never dies.
no,
It doesn't
music
age.
doesn't. Yeah,
And you
exactly.
get to see your legends if they keep touring. You're like, please tour. I never got to see.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the I'm going to get just I am going to touch on a couple of specific songs that to this day keep me sane. It kind of holds me when the world feels heavy, or or as varied as the moods of life itself. Like Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness, I absolutely love it to this day. It's a declaration and a reminder to keep hope alive, even when things feel impossible. Golden by Jill Scott. I live life like it's golden. That's my jam. Celebration of self-love and beauty, and it's still I don't even know how old that song is now, but it's affirming our worth in a world that often tries to take from us and tell us otherwise. And that's been going, it's on repeat in my head a lot. More recently, I actually really love Brown Skin Girl by Beyonce, and I think Blue Ivy was on there as well. Fantastic. But it's designed to, it's an anthem, isn't it, of Black beauty, pride and identity, wrapping us in the love of our skin and our roots. And there'll be countless ones, but they're quite specific handful.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember James Brown said loud, "I'm black and I'm proud." That was back when, Black power, Black pride. But yeah, music through the ages.
Yeah.
Excuse
Young,
me
Gifted
for
and
sharing.
Black. I've just thought of Marcia. Yeah. Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And there's an undeniable power in the way we use music to cope, to connect, and to heal. And I'd go as far as to say it's a shared language. It's a shared language that it transcends borders, generations, and like we've just talked about, even time. Because when you hear a certain song, it can transport you instantly back to childhood. It could be, to a family gathering, to a particular moment in your life, to a protest march, to a moment of private healing. Yeah, music stitches those moments together, weaving a tapestry of collective memory and identity. It's just so powerful.
They do. When you hear a song, you remember where you were and what you were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So music is, and it can be the same thing if you smell a food that's familiar, like something your grandmother cooked or your
Yes.
mother cooked, or something you would have at a family meal or a church gathering. So you're right. The senses of music, food, so powerful, can change your mood, can transport you immediately.
Absolutely. So I had some questions on music to maybe just think about again. What's your survival soundtrack? What songs or sounds hold you? The good questions, because you can refer back to them. What rhythms get you through the hard days and lift you up on the good ones? Yeah. It might be a track your parents played when you were little, or something you just, you found yourself playing and over during a difficult time. Or maybe it's a sound that it connects you to your roots or to your community, because your survival soundtrack, it'll evolve, but it is part of your story. It's part of your healing, part of your culture, and sharing it and honoring it is another way that we get to keep this legacy alive, because music is medicine, and it's resistance, and it's joy, and it's ours. Yeah.
And it's in all of us. So go around singing your favorite song in your head or out loud if you're safe. Right? Don't walk down the street, people think, look at that crazy girl. But yeah, I like that. What's the soundtrack of your life? Put your playlist together.
Yeah. And it's cool because we've got streaming apps and things like that, so it's even easier to do than ever before. Have your survival soundtrack at the ready for anything. So really quickly, I mean, we've definitely threaded it through, but food, faith, and memory. Yeah, food is memory on a plate. Yeah, it's a powerful connector that links us across oceans, generations, communities, time, events. You're gonna have some specific ones, but we talk rice and peas. For me, ackee and saltfish, or a small pot of curried goat simmering on the stove. You're not just enjoying a meal. You're stepping into a living history and nourishing yourself simultaneously, because the dishes carry stories, legacies, and memories that refuse to be erased. Yeah.
Now, if I had to guess, do you have Jamaican background?
I do, and mine. I also, I've alluded to this in previous ones. I'll say it again. I found my culture much later, or connected with it like much later. It definitely weren't in childhood, but like I like the bookshelf, I went digging and trying things out as a young adult, and meeting more people that I could connect with. At once, the first time I tried ackee and saltfish, oh my god, woof! And going
It's
back
an
to
acquired taste. I'd say it's an acquired taste.
Oh,
It's
it's
something we
acquired for
definitely grew
sure.
up on. It's like, okay, we grew up on it. But the first time I had it too, it's like, what? And I'm like, what is this? Just even looking at it. But yeah, good
Yeah.
Jamaican food.
Yeah, ackee and saltfish for me. And I was only going to do that one quite short, but because and also because we've touched on it. But foods are living. They're living memories. It's cultural. It is nourishment, but it's not purely that. And again, threads into ritualistic and ancestral roots and practices.
You
But
say it's culture on the plate. I like to think of food as love on the plate too.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and put love in it. Well, yeah, we do that naturally anyway, but always put love into it as you're cooking it. You know. What we pass down, want to look at that next, because we're the living libraries of our people. Yeah, and this isn't just a metaphor. It's a responsibility and a calling as well, because each of us carries in our bodies, hearts, and minds like this vast archive of stories, wisdom, resilience, and love. And our job, it's not just to hold that knowledge within; it's to pass it down. Yeah, fiercely, lovingly, to the generations coming behind us. Yeah. So look around history books, my bookshelf. I've told you, or school curricula if that's where you are. You're going to see the glaring absence of many. I know Black British stories. I'm hearing it all the time from across the pond. There's so much that's been erased from the Americas. For which reason, for that, I've got no reason to doubt that's happening in many other parts of the world. Our heroes, our warriors, our culture bearers have often been erased or sidelined, and if we don't actively tell those stories to the best of our ability, we risk the curse of erasure continuing to get passed down. Passing down culture, it means making deliberate choices about which stories survive and which values we hold sacred. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
and it's
these things
about
are curated. They're
yeah,
curated and not always by people with our best interests. So that's why we have to make sure
exactly.
every home library has, what they don't have.
Yeah.
And if you're in the States, the books they're banning and literally burning, those are the ones you want to read.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's passing down culture and the story it is also about resistance for those very reasons. Because in a society writ large that often marginalizes Black lives and histories, curates, erases, we have to keep telling our stories. We have to keep practicing our rituals and to keep speaking our truths. It's radical. It is a form of survival, yes, but it's also a form of defiance, and it's a way of saying that we're here, we've always been here, going to continue to be here, and that's not changing. And so, I want to ask, just drop this one in with all the love and care the question deserves. What are you passing down? Take some time to think about that. What stories are you holding close, ready to share? What practices, rituals, or wisdom are you choosing to carry forward? Yeah. So, is it the recipe for the Sunday rice and peas cooked just so? Is it the story of an ancestor who fought for freedom? Is it the way that you teach your children to love their hair and their skin? Or maybe it's the way, you gather your people in times of joy and pain, creating community through connection, because what we pass down shapes the future. It shapes how those coming after us see themselves, their potential, their worth, and it shapes how they navigate the world. Well, it shapes how they navigate a world that might try, as historically has happened, to erase or diminish them. And when we pass down stories and culture, we also pass down healing. Yeah, healing from trauma, from erasure, from the wounds inflicted by centuries of injustice. We pass down resilience, strength, and hope. It's so much more. And it's a legacy of cultural coping, what our ancestors fought for and what we continue to fight for every day. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to pass down hope and not um, a culture of defeat
Yes. Oh, yeah.
or
100%.
capitulation, right? That's not our story. We don't capitulate.
Exactly. Exactly. And, really sit with this, take a moment to reflect on your own legacy as well. What do you want to be remembered for? What seeds are you planting today that are going to grow in the hearts of those who follow you? Because the stories we tell, the love we give, and the culture we nurture, they're the roots that keep us strong and the wings that help us soar. And trust me, what you pass down matters. It is so important. So important.
You may not see that now, but it's so important.
It is. It's
Every
absolutely.
day you're building a legacy. You may not like the word legacy, but every day you're setting an example.
Yes.
And you're either inspiring or deflating someone without even knowing.
100%. Yeah. And so I'm closing this one up. I think it's more of a reminder than anything. Okay. So, white supremacy tried, right? Boy, did it try it, but it didn't steal everything. Yeah. It came for everything that made us who we are, our languages, our rhythm, our beauty, our minds, and our joy. And it attempted to silence the songs we sing. Going back to what you said about curation, erasure. Yeah. To erase the stories we tell, to flatten the vibrant, rich cultures that have carried us through centuries of struggle. Yeah, that's a fact. Colonial powers did ban our language, forcing us to speak theirs. Yeah, they deemed our rhythms inferior, trying to replace them with their own cold, regimented beats, respectfully. They told us that our beauty was ugly. They told us our hair was unmanageable. They told us our traditions were backward. They sought to control our minds to dictate what knowledge was valid and whose history mattered. But what we've got to remember is that white supremacy did not and could not succeed fully. Not because it wasn't relentless and yeah, remains so, but because we are relentless too. Because the spirit of our people is too strong to be extinguished, and that's why we're still here. We're not just surviving; we're innovating. We're not just enduring. But we're not just enduring. We're also healing. Now we're well on the way. We're not just existing, but we're laughing, we're loving, we're creating. Yeah. So think about the ways we keep pushing culture forward in spite of it all. And I think in every, well, right here in the UK, but across the diaspora, across the world, in every city, town, village, our creativity pulses and shines. We create art that challenges, that celebrates, that tells our truths unapologetically. Yeah, we even write plays now that unpack trauma and joy, and that forces audiences to reckon with history and possibility. We build fashion brands. We talked about our style. We build fashion brands that celebrate Black beauty, redefining standards that once sought to erase us. Hair techniques, style, care rituals that once had to be hidden or devalued now go viral worldwide, embraced and admired by millions. We make culture that commands respect and reshapes the mainstream. Yeah. So it's a very celebratory. I really wanted to go there today. This feels good because every time, even as an individual, we create art that feels good to us. It speaks our truth. It heals wounds that are too deep for words. That's cultural coping. That's surviving, and we're on it when it comes to thriving. Yeah, joy isn't frivolous. It's revolutionary. It's an act of resistance to laugh in the face of systems that have tried to dehumanize us, and it's a refusal to be defined by trauma alone. It's a bold claim on the fullness of our humanity. And in the face of systemic erasure, we have been doing it, but we continue, and we're doing it with relish now. We create new worlds. We imagine futures that hold space for our full selves, complex, beautiful, flawed, and fierce. And that's the power white supremacy could never steal. Because as much as it tried to break us down, it only made our roots dig deeper. It made our voices grow louder. It made our community stronger. And through all of that, we continue to rise. Yeah.
Amen, sister. And I don't know what indigenous culture said this, but if I'm paraphrasing, they tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds.
Mm.
That's kind of how we are.
Yeah.
Are you done? Because I've got some affirmations for you before we go. I just love this joyful episode.
Yeah, definitely. I'm
Kendra?
finishing on that sermon. I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to
all
digging
right.
into
Awesome. Because I'm like, okay, you brought the joy. Let me close with some affirmations. I love the questions that you gave us to reflect on. I think these will tie in perfectly.
Great.
So we can repeat these silently, or whoever is listening, if you feel safe to say it out loud. I honor the fullness of who I am, past, present, and becoming. I honor the fullness of who I am, past, present, and becoming. My culture is not a burden. It is a source of wisdom and strength. My culture is not a burden. It's a source of wisdom and strength. I carry the resilience of my ancestors in my breath. I carry the resilience of my ancestors in my breath. And finally, I celebrate my culture without apology. I celebrate my culture without apology. Sister, I'm going to add, normally the part where you say this is where you dance out and I give you music, I'm going to clip in a fan dance.
Yeah.
So you'll see what I mean. And that'll be our joy. So we get to dance together. Thank you so much for this episode of Joy and reminding us about ancestral healing.
Thank you. It's been a privilege. And we celebrate us with this episode fundamentally.
Fundamentally. So until next time, right? We're coming back together next time, right?
Yeah. Yes,
I always ask you, I'm like, she's coming back, isn't she?
so ready. Already.
All right, babes. Thanks for today.
Thank you. See you next time.
Yeah, this is the part where we dance it out. This time you got the video. Boots on the ground, y'all. Get your fans out. Get your fans out.
Where them fans at? Where them fans at? Where them fans at? Hit me one time. Oh, 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 I got my boots on the ground. Yeah. Oh, 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 I got my boots on the ground. Where the fans at? Get up by your seat. Let your body move. Cowboys and cowgirls, they're feeling the groove.
This has been your girl, Kate Pearl. I hope you found this episode enlightening.
This is Adrianne, and I hope it's been healing.
Bye.
Bye.